Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sky One rating. Finally. Uh, this has been a long time coming, and I just realized you can't hear the music. Son of a bitch. One sec. There. Alright. So, let's begin, shall we? So, as ever, this is my explanation of the rating for Sky One. I enjoy the Trail series. It's got some stumbling blocks, points, but Sky One. Oof. Excuse me, jeez. Good story score, not a great gameplay score, as we will get to. 12 sessions, turbo mode being the only cheat, quote unquote. So yeah, let's get into it, shall we? 2 pluses for humor. That is expected at least 1 plus in every Trails game for humor, because this series has a lot of good comedy in it, in my opinion. Speaking of which, Devil May Cry effect. This will be in all but one of these games. Because I do feel like it blends the silly and the serious very well. Then there's the opening movie, which you are currently hearing the music for. Which is excellent in my opinion. And even if the Steam port does have some desync issues with it, I do still like the animation on it, and the song is exquisite too. It's not too spoilery, and that's good. So, yeah. Let's get the boring stuff out of the way. Good use of doodads, heads, good sprite work, good animations, limb effect, good NPC chatter. The NPCs have some interesting stuff to talk about, which actually adds to the flavor of the world. So that actually is very nice. Good background lore, which is all of the lore that's in the background that isn't in your face. Good world building. That's going to be a Trail staple, because this series is really good at world building. Good low-tier storytelling. Let's explain this one. As this wonderful song ends. Low-tier storytelling is, in the grand scheme of things, something is very small scale. Okay? I've got it at random, by the way. For the songs within this soundtrack, so forgive me. The low-tier storytelling is, there's nothing really bombastic. Like, the entirety of Zemuria is not on the line in regards to any of this. By the way, spoilers. Major spoilers. Spoilers for this game. I'm going to try and keep the spoilers for the future games to a minimum, even though, chat has failed that. But whatever. The point is, I actually kind of like the idea that there's no huge stakes here. The only thing that's really at risk is Liberl itself. It's just we don't realize until the future games how much of a shot in the groin that would actually be, which is good. Good, right? Because we're in the moment, we're not supposed to know that the stakes are higher than they seem. That's a sign of good writing, when you can write a story and make the stakes seem super low, and then you realize later, those stakes were a lot higher than we thought. If Estelle and her crew hadn't have stopped Colonel Richard, things would have gone a lot worse. A plus for the theme of journeying on foot for a down-to-earth perspective. I like this too, because that's the whole point of Estelle and Joshua traveling Le Burle on foot, to get a down-to-earth perspective, so that they can see what, so that way they're not looking down on the people they're trying to help. They look on equal footing with them. It's a nice touch. Consequence storytelling. As events are shown to have impact even within Sky 1. Great example of this. This is the whole thing where, like, for example, Cassius being pulled away. Hey, and then everything being allowed to go bad because, the big hero, the big super powerful hero is forced to be Sir not appearing in this film, right? I love the dialogue and the localization. This is an example of good localization, as it feels like there was time and effort and care put into this localization, right? They didn't just lazily translate the text. Cough, cough. Of Crossbell, cough, cough. And the dialogue really flows and is smooth, and it feels like they actually localized this. So, good. Excellent foreshadowing. There are hints of many of the game's plot points throughout the entire game, and it actually leads to a plus later that actually will really help accentuate this. The intro, which I end at the prologue with the prologue, is good stuff. Most of the Trails prologues I end with, or Trails intros rather, I end with the prologue, because most of them do actually feel like they actually work to end them there. Here. Sky 1's intro introduces us to the concept of bracers, the world of Zemuria itself, and the flow of the story beats, which is actually nice. The clock tower scene in Chapter 1. It's great at establishing Estelle's reason for being a bracer and continuing her developing relationship with Joshua. Yes, I am okay with Estelle and Joshua being a couple, for the record. Olivier Sand diffusing the confrontation at Hakan Gate is great. It just shows how good he is. This is where then I also gave 2 pluses to Estelle's character in general, as I honestly think she is a great character. Joshua got 1 plus for Sky 1. Or 2 pluses, actually, excuse me. Their dynamic got a plus, because I actually like how they work well together and all that, so. Good internal continuity. This one is about events within the game not being forgotten. They don't feel like red herrings or big-lipped alligator moments. There's a flow to the continuity, so it feels like the characters are actually growing as they go through the game, which is good. 2 positives for that. 2 positives for Olivier, because Olivier is awesome. Olivier is Olivia is love. Olivia is life. uh, Niall. I gave Niall A plus because, well, what's funny about Niall is in my opinion, he's what a journalist should be. He checks his sources. He doesn't publish speculative articles, and while yeah, he will happily get paid, his main objective is to get information to his readers. And he's also not a complete asshole about it. Unlike, say, Grace in the Crossbell games, Niall is the kind of person of, if you actually give him a good scoop, he will be a lot more open and friendly with you. Great example. He actually is looking at Estelle and Joshua when he first is escorted by them, and is like, being carted around by kids. Then Estelle and Joshua prove themselves, and he's like, oh, you kids are actually worth your salt. Okay, I'm with this. Yeah, awesome. So, that's why Niall is a plus. Professor Alba, for as little as he appears, is honestly well handled and works as a character that you really aren't supposed to notice how often he's conveniently around until the twist happens. Speaking of quote-unquote twists, Colonel Richard. He's great in contrast to General, I love how I wrote this. He's a great contrast to General Morgan, as he understands the value of the Bracer Guild, the value the Bracer Guild brings to the table. He is affable and has a brain in his head, which makes the stuff that we learn in Chapter 3 all the more gut-wrenching, which got him 2 positives. I love the scene of saying goodbye to Shara and Olivier. And I admit Shara calling out Olivier as a Erebonian operative. That was cool. That was good. Now we move on to Chloe. Okay, I have to admit, I love Chloe. I love how strong-willed she is. I love how compassionate she is. It's great stuff. I love Chloe. Chloe is amazing. And the reveal about her in the final chapter, it actually really does work. And you kind of get hints of the big reveal all throughout Chapter 2, which contributes to the whole whatchamacallit. Okay. So, then we have Saving Clem from the Ravens. Oh boy. Okay, so it's a good scene that shows the kind of arrogance that Agate should show. Slight, but not overwhelming to the point of wanting to kick him in the dick. The Automod testing gag should not be how I feel about him all the time. It also shows how much Clem actually cared about the orphanage, because that's when the orphanage gets burnt down, and he's actually accusing the Ravens of doing it. I love the optional side quest of convincing Duke Dunan to leave Air Lytton Checkpoint. Right? Especially if you do it right, it's a great scene that shows that Stell should have more confidence in herself. And it also helps that Dunan is hilariously made out to be a fool by her. Because, his bullshit hasn't popped up yet. Okay, I need to pull a... I'm actually going to bring this in. So. Oops. The play at the school festival. It may seem like filler, but it's the best kind of filler as it allows the heavier themes to take a break and for us to just have some fun, right? It helps that the play is well presented as a high school play. Hey, and shows the adaptability of Estelle and Joshua, right? Excuse me. Yes, it's filler, but it's filler meant to further characterize both Estelle and Joshua. Good stuff. Then I also like the reveal of the Academy fundraising enough money to rebuild the orphanage, as I honestly feel that that's a great scene. I mean, and it's heartwarming to think that, that the Academy cares enough about the orphanage to do that. It's a great scene. The entire scene of confronting Mayor Dalmore is just great stuff. 2 pluses for that. And he exposes himself in the lie. The dialogue is sharp and well written, in my opinion, and it even hints at the power of the Black Orbit. So that's good stuff. Also, I like Julia showing up and arresting Dalmore, as it shows off Julia's character briefly, but well, in the few bits of dialogue that are there. Here in Sky 1, 2 positives for Tita. I really almost feel like I should have upped this to 3. But Tita is definitely a double positive, as she is a delight. I like how she's a well-written child genius. She's smart, but she's also got the flaws of being a child. At least until Agate pisses me right the fuck off involving her, but that we can get into that into the negatives. Her grandfather is also 2 pluses, Professor Russell. He is a delight. His eccentricity is well handled, in my opinion, and it's eccentricity that doesn't make him come across as a dick. He's eccentric, not an asshole, which is honestly funny, and he does make me laugh in multiple situations. The side quest Smoker's Revolt. I actually kind of like this, as it helps to showcase that the events. This is a great example of consequence storytelling, by the way, because it reveals that Murdoch is getting a craving for a cigarette, because like the old cravings are starting to come back, like after he quit smoking, mostly because, well, he's been put under a lot of stress because of the Black Orbit stuff, and that makes perfect sense to me. It's believable, it's realistic, and it's in a way that doesn't feel like it's trying to just be real life. It's just trying to be believable. It's not trying to be realistic, it's trying to be believable. I like the reveal of Colonel Richard as the true culprit, as it feels more like a big reveal only if you didn't really guess it beforehand. And the framing of the scene is less dun 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 and more, oh yeah, by the way, if you haven't figured it out by now, I'm the bad guy. I like that. I like the scene where Colonel Richard tries to make up for his mistakes. He didn't want any part of this, but knows that he should have objected when he had the chance. I do feel like his guilt is natural, by the way. Zin. I like Zin in that strong as a grizzly bear, gentle as a teddy bear kind of way. Hey, I like Zin. I got not much else for it. The heart-to-heart Estelle and Joshua have after meeting Julia and Grand Seal is great, as it shows character development for both of them, and better still, it gets payoff in the ending. A heart-to-heart scene, I guess I never explained this. A heart-to-heart scene is when 2 characters just kind of sit down and just have a emotional conversation with each other, right? A kind of where they talk about how a situation makes them feel, kind of thing. And this is a great example of that. I gave Hilda A+, Headmaid Hilda, to be precise. I like the fact that she is a tough, no-nonsense woman, and the fact of the matter is even at her very first scene, she demonstrates that. And her plan to get Estelle and Joshua into the royal keep, what she comes up with like that, is just beautiful. I love the meeting with Queen Alicia, which is the whole reason we have to get into the royal keep. Her explaining what happened with Cassius in the 100 Days War, it adds depth to Cassius and his backstory of losing Estelle's mother. I also love the part where she requests that we find and free Claudia, which is honestly great, especially after Estelle and Joshua, after they're told you should probably just bow out of this, they put their foot down and say, no, we're stopping this coup. We're stopping this coup now. Oh, yeah. Rescuing Princess Claudia. I absolutely love the rescue of Princess Claudia. Like, the reveal that it's Chloe. Chloe is still shocked at that. Sharon Olivier arriving and saving even the little girl that is taken hostage. And the comedy mixed in with the action is just great stuff. Of triple positive for that. Cassius taking a page out of Dart from Legend of Dragoon's book and knocking some sense into Richard with a punch is awesome. I love that as a wake-up smack. The embassy mission where Mueller asks us to go hunt down an Olivier. It's short, it's sweet, and to the point, and best of all, freaking hilarious in my opinion. I need a specific song for this next one. Okay, where is Release the Spell? Come on, where's Release the Spell? Where the hell? Here it is. You know I had to do this song. And for this. The twist of Professor Alba being Weissman. While I do think the rescue of Princess Claudia is the best scene in the game, this is a very close second. As the twist is extremely well handled, it makes perfect sense in my opinion, and there are massive implications for this in Sky 2. The music direction is also the best it's been all game during this scene. Yeah, no, I absolutely have to give this 3 positives. Which also leads us into the Babylon 5 Ava Effect positive. This is where things... This is the idea of things being different when you know the spoilers versus when you don't. And it's good stuff. I absolutely love this twist, and I feel like the twist is poetically handled. Because it doesn't feel like everything you've done is pointless. It just adds a different flavor to everything that has happened. Good stuff. So, yeah. And then there's the decision to leave. It's on. There we go. Triple positive for Joshua and Estelle's confessions. Third favorite scene. Again, by like the tiniest of margins. The music, the dialogue, and even the cliffhanger are just handled perfectly, in my opinion. It's a gut-wrenching and emotional scene that just works. It also adds to the fact that this outro, the entire final portion of the game, from a story perspective, is honestly great. Especially once you've cleared the final dungeon. Which is great. So, let's get into some negatives, shall we? There's not very many. I can sum these up pretty quickly. The Steam version has some desync issues with the opening, and there are many times, and it kind of gets grating. There's like a 30-second desync, and it's pretty bad. There are too many instances of won the battle, lost the cutscene. And it kind of gets irritating after a while, honestly. I gave a negative to General Morgan, as I find he is an arrogant, paint-thinner guzzling moron who lets his hate boner for bracers lead him to making mistakes a 5-year-old could see past. Namely in Chapter 1, when he accuses the party of collaboration, since he is basically accusing both the Guild and Mayor Maybell. Yeah, he has fucking tunnel vision worse than General Ironwood, and it's pretty fucking terrible. His pride leads to stupidity, and that just makes you question how the holy fuck he became a general in the first place. Had he, say, brought us in for questioning, then fine, I would have let that go. But no, he flat out accuses us. Fuck this asshole. And no, he doesn't get much better in the sequels. Oh boy, here we go. So, then I didn't have another negative until Agate showed up. Okay, so Agate, I basically gave Agate's triple negative, like, instantaneously. Instantaneously upon his first scene, because he pissed me off. He really pissed me off. I'll just go ahead and read this one word for word for you. Good fucking lord, do I hate Agate with every fiber of my being in Sky 1. I made it clear that I only hate him here in Sky 1. Okay? Every fucking scene he's in has him treating Estelle and Joshua like they will amount to fuck all. I want to remind you that they will be part of the giant army that puts an end to the Osborne arc. Spoilers. Instead of what he should be doing, so yeah, he makes them amount to fuck all instead of what he should be doing, which is being a tutor for the two. You know? Instead, he's constantly berating them, constantly calling them brats, and given the backstory we learn about him in Sky 2, yeah, that makes him a fucking hypocrite. Like, just straight up a fucking hypocrite. Big time. Right. It pisses me off because it's like, really? really? Like, dude, you are literally a from nothing. You are basically a rags to bracer story. Kiss my ass, you know? Future good characterization does not excuse shit first impressions. This has been true for characters such as Weiss Schnee and Katsuki Bakugo. You know, as I say in the document, just ask Weiss Schnee and Katsuki Bakugo about that sometime. Agate in Sky 1 is so anger-inducing for me that, yeah, he was easily a triple negative. Holy crap. Then there's telling Tita to stay behind when Professor Russell is captured. Oh, God. It pisses me right the fuck off. First, I get that it's dangerous, but she has already demonstrated her skill with an orbital cannon, okay? That's problem number one. And second, Agate isn't saying it out of kindness, but cruelty. Because again, remember, his only characterization is condescending hickhead. And third, and the most anger-inducing at all, it's why we fail. You basically treated her like shit, that made her want to prove herself, and then, oh, would you look at that, her emotional state fucked everything up. Instead of factoring Tita into our plans, which would have at least made it easier for us to rescue Professor Russell, which would have made her angst in the situation make even the tiniest modicum of sense. No, instead, Agate just fucking smacks her for getting over emotional, the very thing that he should have seen coming a fucking continent away. God. Ugh. I like Sky 1's story, but that part really pisses me off. Then there's Duke Danon. Boy. So, Duke Danon's a misogynistic twat. He basically literally says that women belong in the kitchen right beside three-armed women. My note here just says it all. Duke Danon guzzles paint in her constantly, and well, that is in character for him. He is useless to the plot, and there is nothing compelling about him at all. Oh, and he's sexist as fuck, which is just irritating. Like I said, women belong in the kitchen. Three-armed women are standing right there. Yeah, go fuck yourself, of Duke Danon. Alright, so New Game Plus. My positives were New Game Plus, music being a plus, the good save system, the mini-map. It is a basic mini-map, but honestly, I kind of like the color coding with it for the buildings. Red for the Bracer Guild, green for item and weapon shops, blue for inns, orange for the Orbment Factory, even though I kind of wish that the dungeons had a minimap too. We'll get to that with gameplay negative number 5. Good tutorials, good info in game. The NPCs are helpful. This is something I always like in a JRPG. It's when NPCs will point you in the right direction, right? If they are helpful, then yeah, that's worthy of a plus. Good visual distinction, which helps mitigate the lack of mini-maps and dungeons. Flow of exploration is good. The quest log is good. Not great, but good. I like the combat animations. Retry offset. Have this feature enabled in the options, and every time you hit retry, the game lowers the difficulty to make the fight a bit easier. I like that. It's a great feature, and it's a staple of the Trail series, and I love it. I wish more RPGs had this feature. Good options in the configuration menu, which only really applies to the PC port, as there is a configuration tool that you can open just before launching the game, which is good. And more older games should have something like that, in my opinion. Even on console. They should just have a bunch more options built in. I love the cooking mechanic. It's honestly great. It's honestly great and allows you to have more to just make healing items, which is awesome. That way you don't have to blow all your items on like the game's equivalent of potions. You can just make food and that'll heal you too, which is good. Decent enemy variety, decent interface in both the menus and in combat, in my opinion. The prologue chapter, I like it from a gameplay perspective too, because it establishes quests, rewards, and combat all very nicely. And there's also a good variety in what kind of things you do during it, so good stuff. I like the investigation sections as they are basic, but they're actually decent for what they are, and they don't overstay their welcome. I enjoy the core combat, and even if I have issues with the difficulty curve and power progression curve and the encounter layout. The S-Brake system. This is another one that every Trails game is going to get. The S-Brake system is being allowed to use your S-Crafts, is the equivalent of limit breaks, anytime you want, as you can interrupt your opponent as long as you have more than 100 CP. Awesome. Love it. Full heal and level up. We talked about that during the rating of Cyber Sleuth. Tita as a utility character. Yes, I kind of am a sucker for giving characters with a basic AoE for an attack, like a plus, mostly because if it's got really good range, like Tita does, like Noel does in the Crossbell games, I'm more than likely going to give a plus. I think the encounter design... I screwed that up a bit. I think the encounter design is good. Good itemization. This is how good the stuff you get from shops and chests are, and I like that. As long as you're getting good stuff all the time at a decent clip, that's good itemization in my opinion. Decent boss design, even if very few bosses actually stand out. I'm more likely to give pluses and minuses for the individual bosses themselves, unless the bosses are just kind of there and I don't remember anything about them, right? Then it's just usually a boss design plus, if I don't feel frustrated. The fight against Kurt's team during the tournament. It still kind of feels cheap. We'll get into an example of that in the negatives. But it's actually kind of fun and does have a strategy to it, unlike the bullshit Raven fight. Only 2 of them have revives, and they aren't full revives. That was worthy of 2 pluses for me. Now, the final match of the tournament, while still suffering from some cheapness, is great as it is challenging, while at the same time not being overwhelmingly cheap. That you weren't going to make any progress. It's good. I enjoy the first round against the Mech Reverie, as I honestly feel like it more so makes you pay attention without any real cheap gimmicks, which is good. Unlike many of the rest of the boss fights, this one feels crafted and designed. So 2 positives for that. Right. And then the second round against it, there's clear progression in the fight, as it loses functions, as it takes damage, and honestly it's really fun as the final boss fight. I basically I didn't give a plus for the outro, but I did give a positive for the cathartic beatdown we give it in the 3rd round against the final boss, so... cool. Two negatives for the difficulty curve and power progression curve because, yeah, it still feels like the fights barely get any easier. We'll get into an example of that in negative number 19. But yeah, oof. Difficulty curve is the flow of the difficulty. Does the difficulty just kind of gently rise, or does it spike? And negatives are usually for the spiking. The power progression curve is the progression of your power level, you know. So, do you constantly get more powerful? Oh. Wait, was there a positive, a negative? Oh, it's not -5. -14. It's -14. Wow, I didn't proofread this. Let's see. Let's get some accurate information here. The other one was just one off, so I'm not too worried about it. The actual fifth one, lag issues with the Steam port. It gets really aggravating a lot of the time. I feel like Trash has way too much HP. Because many Trash encounters just feel like they're slogging. Alright. Let's talk about Scaling Exp. Lord, Scaling Exp. Okay. Alright. I hate Scaling Exp. Okay? There are games where it's used very well. Soten comes to mind immediately. Castlevania Symphony of the Night. But if I notice it, especially in turn-based RPGs, in something like Soten, you're not really gonna notice it because it's just kind of a way to keep the flow of the exploration going, right? And to discourage you from grinding, right? Meanwhile, well, here, okay. It usually doesn't bug me all that much, but here in the Trail series, it really bugs me because, well, it's actually very simple. I like leveling in RPGs, and Scaling Exp kills that. Because you get to the point where if you want to level to max for fun, the game flips you the bird and says, fuck you. Yes, high exp requirements are kind of the opposite extreme, but honestly, Scaling Exp just makes fights eventually get extremely boring after a while, because you are gaining practically nothing from combat, and in my opinion, that's you not having fun. And since Sky 1 is definitely the worst with this that I have seen so far, and I stand behind that, by the way, yeah, full 3 negatives, because so many times you will get to a new area and then like 2 seconds later, and then like 3 or 4 fights later, you're already gaining a pitiful amount of experience, which is garbage. Which is funny because Legend of Dragoon kind of had an interesting solution. Don't have it Scaling X, just have the Trash encounters give you almost nothing because they're meant to practice your additions on, and then have the bosses be where you level. 2 negatives for the on-screen enemies, as I honestly hate how they fucking beeline for you. 2. 3 if you combine the fact that they blend into the background here in Sky 1. More so than in any other game. There's padding, editing in terms of the gameplay. I feel like this game is just kind of bloated with like superfluous side quests and stuff. All right, so here's my mini rant on the lack of a minimap in dungeons. The dungeons are where you would want the minimap to help guide you. It feels backwards and asinine to have it be that, oh, hey, let's have the mini-maps be in the towns, but not in the dungeons. Wait, what? Why would you do that? You know? And never mind the fact that the dungeons are just as, if not more, lackluster design-wise as Digimon Stories Cyber Sleuth, in my opinion. What are you doing, cat? Cat's being weird. You're distracting again. Anyways. Status effect fetish. Yeah, if enemies rely too much on status effects, makes for their difficulty. Oh boy, that's not good. We established that at negative over in FF5, and oh boy. Then there's Nebel Valley, which is just really fucking irritating to navigate. 2 negatives for it. There is some bad backtracking in this game, and it gets old fast, especially during the side quests. Huh. Anyways. There's some walk-through-itis stuff where it's like it feels like you're not going to know what to do unless you look it up. Accuracy and evasion. If I feel like I miss way too often, that tends to piss me off. So, yeah, negative for that. Which also I don't feel powerful in this game, and I feel like the game is actively trying to kick my ass. It is actively kicking my ass, so yeah. Then there's the fight with King Penguin, whose HP has way too much HP at DBZ meme, or over 9k. Plus the ads can all buff him, not to mention the obnoxious range in its AoEs. I really don't like that fight. I really don't. I can't stand the fight with the Ravens in the tournament. 2 negatives. God. Way too much health. They have instant kill attacks. Oh, and they can fully revive each other. Piss off. Not a fan of the trial and error stealth section in Grand Seal. It's not the worst I've seen, but the field of vision on the guards borderlines on bullshit most of the time, if I'm honest. I don't like the fights in the villa, as the scaling X basically says is, yeah, you don't get to level in there, and it's really fucking stupid. Ditto for raiding Grand Seal Castle to try and save Queen Alicia. I really don't like the fight against Colonel Richard. I don't know. He fights you with 2 hard robot enemies, and it's frankly just annoying. Especially if you like magic. When cats decide to distract you by climbing into the ceiling. Combine that with their cheap attacks, you have a miserable time. And the final one, the entire outro from a gameplay perspective is honestly just tiring and sloggy as hell. It's kind of obnoxious. Thankfully, the story more than makes up for it. Oh my god. This is just the day. This is just the day of distractions. Oh my god. Anyways, so that's it. So that left us with a +3 to gameplay and a plus as 57 to story, leaving us with a final score of +60. I stand behind this score, mostly because Sky 1 is not one I'd be rushing back to, because I don't think it has very good gameplay. But honestly, I like the story. And honestly, I kind of like it. I kind of like the idea of all this. So yeah. Those are indeed my thoughts on Sky 1. I still enjoy Sky 1 to this day. I still think Sky 1 is definitely worth playing. It's definitely one of those things. I kind of wish we had a console port to just shore up some of the port issues, because then this would be a couple of points higher. This was a good start to the Zamoria arc, to the Zamoria stuff. I really do feel that way, and I like it. I think this is good stuff. I enjoyed playing Sky 1, and I hope you've enjoyed my thoughts, as honestly, I really like this. I really like this game. Just not as much as its sequel. So, that's going to do it for this rating. If you're watching this when these go live, that's going to mean that on Monday, we're going to rate Sky 2. So, 1 Trails game rating recorded, 3 to go to be caught up. And then I can start uploading the other ones. So, until next time, Blue Wolf Alex of the Lore Walkers signing out. Have a good one, and consider Trails 1, Sky 1 recommended.